back, everyone. Spotlight time once again in a UK style tune called Warrior Charge. With a frontline horns assault of Vin Gordon on trombone and Michael Bammy Rose on sax. The band is called Aswad, one of the top flight UK roots reggae bands of the 1970s and 80s. Playing from convenience from Aswad, the Roots Rocking Anthology. But here is 12-inch single. This is one of the seminal slices of UK roots reggae, absolutely crucial. Warrior Charge, 12-inch single by Aswad. 1980. Militant steppers instrumental, roots instrumental, tore up the UK reggae scene in 1980. The song was the centerpiece of a film that appeared that year, filmed on location in the streets of Brixton, London, set in the UK sound system world, and it starred the lead singer of that band, Aswad, Brinsley Ford, who as a child had been an actor on the BBC. The film was a very gritty depiction of the UK sound system world as Ford struggles to lead his Ital Lion sound system, fictional, in a clash against rival Shaka, a real sound man, playing himself in the final scenes, as Ford negotiates the gritty streets of London, facing economic pressures, rivalries with other sounds, and even persecution by racist police. In this scene on the front cover of the soundtrack LP, he's being chased by undercover cops in a car who catch him, beat him, throw him in jail. Finally, in this film's final scenes, out of frustration, he retaliates. These were themes that were commonplace at the time to those of a West Indian background, particularly males at the time. You can see some of these themes dealt with in the Small Axe series of films, which appeared last year. Soundtrack album appeared 1980. Soundtrack overseen by Dennis Bovell, and centerpiece of the film is that song Warrior Charge, which in the fictional version is the Ital Lions sound system crew's secret weapon in their upcoming clash with Shaka. But the real song recorded by Aswad, featuring Vin Gordon and Michael Bammy Rose, not to be confused with Michael Rose from Black Uhuru. Soundtrack also featuring many other artists, Yabiu, Michael Prophet, Iroy, and overseen by the great Dennis Bovell. This capped off a series of events which saw Aswad rise to the top of the UK roots reggae scene. They were formed in 1975. That was the year Bob Marley and the Wailers appeared in their famous concert in London, immortalized on the Live album. Saw a proliferation of roots reggae bands in London and the UK. Aswad were one. They were formed in the Ladbroke Grove area of London, West London, by Brinsley Ford, Donald Griffiths, Courtney Hemmings on keys, George Oban on bass, and Angus Drummy Zeb Gay on drums. There they are there. Debut album, 1976, would be the first roots reggae album, first reggae album released by a UK band on a major label, Island Records, 1976. Aswad, self-titled debut. This would follow up early singles like the dreamy Yearning Back to Africa, and more militant songs like 3 Babylon, which comments on police brutality. again. 1976, the year this came out, was the year of Notting Hill riots at the famous carnival in Notting Hill, London, when attendees clashed with police over unjustified arrests of young black males. Aswad self-titled debut includes a couple of instrumentals showing their versatility. Right from the get-go, Aswad would show the different sound, different textures of UK reggae as compared to Jamaican reggae. They struggled against the common misconception of UK reggae as being in some way second-rate to that of Jamaica. To this very day, I've seen comments by longtime UK reggae people in the UK world that the real reggae is from Jamaica. So there was always this struggle to be accepted for who they were, coming from a UK background with a different set of influences. They would show their versatility on many of these songs. There's a couple of instrumentals. Ethiopian Rhapsody even has a bit of a classical feel to it, as well as some smoother textures, which they would explore as the years went by, but built on a bedrock of solid roots reggae, Rastafari influenced roots reggae, yearning for repatriation on Back to Africa. The following year, the band would back up the great Burning Spear for his live album, 1977. Backing him up live in concert. They would also contribute instrumental performances to his Essential Social Living album, which also appeared on Island Records, the classic Social Living by Burning Spear. They would also be associated with Bob Marley and the Wailers. They played some instruments on his Punky Reggae Party single, produced by Lee Perry, recorded in London, backed up many other Jamaican artists, definitely part of a larger scene. Second album, Hulit, would appear in 1979. Hulit also feature classics Sons of Criminals, Not Guilty, Better Leave Him Alone, He's a Rasta Man, Can't Walk the Streets, Corruption. Maybe a harder roots edge on this album. Again, appearing on Island Records. Aswad, Hulit. Lineup changes would begin to occur with the band. George Oban would leave, citing musical differences. He would want to go in a more jazzier reggae direction, forming a band called Motion. Courtney Hemmings, keyboard player, had left. So the group would start to pare down its lineup to eventually becoming a trio of Brinsley Ford on vocals, Drummy Zeb on drums, Tony Gadd Robinson on bass and keys. Aswad that album, Hulit, would also begin a long-standing production association with Michael Reuben Campbell, not to be confused with the Jamaican Mikey Campbell, Michael Dredd. Michael Reuben Campbell on production for several of the Aswad albums. The following 1981 showcase album on Island Records would collect many of their early singles in a remixed form, including Back to Africa, The Militant 3 Babylon, It's Not Our Wish, Pleading for Tolerance, Rainbow Culture, celebrating diversity, and of course, that blazing roots instrumental, Steppers Beat Reggae Warrior Charge. Aswad, crucial reggae album right here. But following this, Aswad's ambition would see them switch to the CBS label, wanting wider distribution for their music. They wanted to take it as far as they could, and they would regroup on CBS Records with the classic New Chapter album, which appeared on CBS 1981. Classic album featuring African children, Tough We Tough, Zion, one of my all-time favorites from them, very dreamy, very yearning, Candles, and the heavy bass and drum workout of Love Fire. The rhythm track of Love Fire would later be voiced over by reggae superstar Dennis Brown as Promised Land. recording his own song on Aswad's label, or Aswad's rhythm track, and appearing on their Simba label. Hopefully you can see that. Promised Land by Dennis Brown, classic tune built on a foundation of a rhythm track recorded by Aswad. And the rhythm would also, unusually, the rhythm would also be adopted by Jamaican producers. Simba would be the label that Aswad established for their own releases. They would also record visiting Jamaican artists like Johnny Osborne, who recorded 13 Dead, Nothing Said as a very mournful commentary on the New Cross fire of 1981, which saw 13 people killed in a house fire in London. They would also record songs by Patrick Andy and others. The New Chapter album was well received, but didn't quite achieve the chart placing the band hoped for. Perhaps tellingly, their next album was called Not Satisfied, again on CBS. Again, a very strong effort here, with a drum and bass line becoming one of their live staples. The title track, Revisiting African Children, Pass the Cup, a more bubblier dance hall texture, maybe showing their commercial leanings, which would see fuller expression in coming years. Girls Got to Know, bringing in some smoother textures, some lovers rock. Aswad never tied down to the roots reggae sound. They incorporate different influences based on their environment, what they were hearing all around them, influences of R&B, of jazz, of lovers rock. They wanted to bring these in, incorporate somewhat of a smoother texture than maybe you might be used to from a strictly roots reggae standpoint. This would broaden their commercial appeal, also give them challenges on maintaining the grassroots audience back home in Ladbroke Grove, in Brixton. In 1983, or actually first, they would switch back to Island Records after those two albums for CBS, and release a new chapter of dub, mixed by Michael Reuben Campbell with Aswad's drummy Zeb. Essential UK dub album, probably the greatest UK dub album, with inventive mixes of the tracks from that new chapter album, full-length dub versions. This has been reissued recently on vinyl. 1982 this appeared. 1983 saw them playing on home turf to a local audience at the Notting Hill Carnival. 1983's Live and Direct saw them in a live setting, back on Island Records again, Mango imprint, running through tracks like drum and bass line, roots rocking, even going through some recent hits by other artists, Johnny Osborne's Water Pumping, Dennis Brown's Revolution, and their own Love Fire, which Dennis had voiced over. Energetic live set. Some of these songs sound better than the studio recorded versions. Special request to the Ladbroke Grove posse. Aswad, live and direct before a home audience. Again, maintaining the connection with the local fan base. They would work with Shaka, who played Brinsley Ford's rival sound man in the Babylon film a few years earlier. 1984-ish, mid-1980s, Shaka meets Aswad in Addis Ababa studio. This sees Aswad in an instrumental role only. Kind of dubby instrumentals on this one, appearing on Shaka's label. Strictly instrumental style, roots, steppers. The steppers beat would carry the swing in UK roots through the 1980s into the 1990s. Shaka leading the way forward, the sound man who was revered for sticking to a strictly roots, spiritual, roots and culture format with his music, both that he played in a sound system and produced when everyone else was following the dance hall template coming from Jamaica and adopted by many in the UK. Then Aswad's next album would be 1984's Rebel Souls, for the first time recording in Jamaica at Channel One Studios, engineered by Hopton Overton Brown, aka Scientist, Rebel Souls, again, Island still sticking with Island Records. The group now down to the core trio, Brinsley, Drummy Zeb, Tony Robinson. This would see them increasingly going in a smoother pop direction, and for the first time cracking the UK pop charts with Chasing for the Breeze, with kind of a smooth lovers rock R&B kind of feel to it. Rebel Souls, this pop direction of Aswad would continue, as well as spiky dance hall. To the Top would appear 1986 on their own Simba label during one of their breaks from Island Records, Aswad's Simba label, and would include hits like Bubbling, Cool Now, Aswad in a dance hall style. Also have the 12-inch single of Bubbling, again on Simba. Bubbling, one of their hits from this period. 1988 would see Aswad reach their highest commercial peak with the Distant Thunder album. Distant Thunder included a song called Don't Turn Around, which had been written by American songwriters. Aswad would take it to #1 in the charts, and a few years later it would be covered by Ace of Base and become a worldwide smash hit. Don't Turn Around marked the apogee of Aswad's commercial pop leanings. They would definitely start losing their roots and culture fan base at home, but commercial success was at last achieved. 1990 would see them return to Jamaica, record with Gussie Clarke at his Music Works studio. 1994, they would record the Rise and Shine album. Again, experimenting with dancehall. The Too Wicked album from 1990 with Gussie Clarke included a guest spot by Shabba Ranks. I do not have that album, or Rise and Shine. Following that album, Brinsley Ford would leave the group, citing differences. The group would soldier on as a duo, record a couple more albums, although not much has been heard from them in recent years. Their legacy has tended to be marginalized, minimalized, perhaps because of that lingering perception of UK roots somehow not measuring up to Jamaican roots. Maybe because Aswad were largely associated with Island Records for much of their career, major labels, rather than small reggae-focused labels. It's hard to say, but even in reggae literature, of which I have quite a bit, they're not discussed a great deal. It's perhaps unfair for a band who are at the absolute upper echelon of UK roots bands, a self-contained band, strong songwriters, strong performers, and skilled producers as well, multi-talented. So that is my look at Aswad. Hope you've enjoyed, guys. Cheers.